monsters, madness, and magic.
All right, folks, welcome to the Monsters, Madness, and Magic podcast. I'm your host, Justin, here with a quick word before we dive in. Now, in this episode, I chat with actor and model Sybil Danning about her childhood in Austria, set stories from the Howling II, Christopher Lee, her upcoming film with Fred Olen Ray, and more. As always, thank you all for listening out there, and without further ado, here you go.
Well, thank you very much, first of all, for waiting so long and being so patient. Okay, I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for giving me some of your time.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be with you. Do you go by Justin or JR?
Justin.
Justin.
When I publish something or if I write, I'll have JR on there because it sounds more distinguished. But
Well, I can tell you I have a very good friend, but I don't know, are we on already? No, I just wanted to say I have a very, very dear friend who goes by JR, and his last name is also Young. And
wow.
he was with Sam Raimi's company. Maybe you've heard of him from there. He
May-
worked with Sam Raimi for years in his company. And that's how I got to know him. And then one day I called him because I wrote a movie. That's the one I really was waiting for. I'm not quite ready. I have interest, but you'll know as soon as that goes. I wrote a vampire movie and I called him at Sam's office and they said, "Oh, he's gone." I said, "Where the hell is he?" They said, "Oh, he's over at Fox." I said, "Well, I didn't say it, but I was thinking, okay, now he's got some big hotshot, position over there. I'm never going to get him, but I got him." And I said, "Listen, I really respect your opinion. Read my script, please." He read it that night, called me the next morning and said, "Sybil, get the right director. With the right director, this movie's going to go down within the genre as a classic. Just get
Wow.
the right director." And I have the director I want now. So it's also not cheap. I want it the way I want it. I want the director that has my vision, and this director is going to be perfect. So I'm going for it. It's taking a little longer, but I'm going to do it. And that is my story for J.R. Young. So he is, well, of course, then I said, "Okay, let's do it at Fox. You do it." And well, now that was when they signed, and he said, "I have Mickey Mouse looking over my shoulder."
Yeah.
And there's a little too much sex and violence. That's a little too much for Mickey Mouse. Okay.
Yeah, it seems like Mickey Mouse is everywhere these days.
Yeah, he should stick to his department and let us. I mean, he's taking over everywhere.
Yeah.
Where
Just
are
have
you right now?
I,
Where? What
I'm
city?
I'm in South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina. Okay. For some reason, I thought New York, but.
No, I'm near the South Carolina Georgia border
Oh, nice.
in the deep woods.
Nice. Sounds nice.
Yes, ma'am. I just have a icebreaker I like to ask everyone, and then we're just chatting for a few minutes. That's about as fancy as I get. All right, Miss Danning. What? Just to get started here, why don't you take us back in time? You're a youngster. Are you a book reader, fort builder, troublemaker, or all of the above?
Well, first of all, do you have like months and months of time? This is a long story you want told. And first of all, call me Sybil,
Gotcha.
okay? I'm not Miss Danning, I'm Sybil. You've
Understood.
seen my movies, okay?
Yeah.
All right. No, I was pretty much all of the above. And I guess, you have to have a little of that in you when you're little because it doesn't come just out of the blue. And yeah, well, I was born in Austria, like Arnold
Mm-hmm.
Schwarzenegger. But unlike him, I got rid of my accent. But that's okay, Arnold. It works for you. I love him. But no, even as a little girl, my mother told me, there they would go on I was maybe 5 years old, and they would go to the park on a Sunday where they had classical music playing, and I would just tear myself away from my mother and my aunts and all the women that went there. And I would run in front of the orchestra and dance, and I would twirl my skirt and show my ruffled panties. And so I guess, I don't know, maybe Hugh Hefner was, maybe I was kind of just doing some, rehearsing for Hugh Hefner. Hey, I'll be in Hollywood soon. And my parents, well, my grandparents actually, they always had hotels, and they lived near the train. Well, it was right across the street from the train station, actually, because in those days that's how you traveled, and they had very elegant, guests and everything. And my grandpa had a store there, and across the street, they owned the hotel, and my grandma ran the restaurant. But I was always with my grandfather at the train station. And probably, they had these, I remember it was like big leaves of glass where they had the maps of where you're going. That's how you knew where you're going in those days. And I used to twirl those. I can remember those things. And then I'd go to my grandpa and I'd say, I want a shillung, that's the Austrian money. And then I'd go and buy some candy down there that I wouldn't get at home, because with grandpas, you get away with everything. So
Right.
that was a little manipulative too. And when grandma came looking for me, she knew I was with grandpa because he spoiled me down there. And I guess just I love the coming and going. I wanted to leave the house. I was only with grandma. My mother was working. So I guess I always had that feeling, maybe then. Now let me see, how can I get out of this town? What
Yeah.
train should I take? So that went into a lot of things that, it takes forever to talk about. By the way, I have half of my autobiography already done, and I just finished a picture book. So there's a little bit of my story in the picture book as well, with all the pictures that I have, starting with me as a baby, naked on the blanket with my grandma, laying down and saying, okay, how do you like that? I'll be in Hollywood soon, and that kind of stuff. So there's going to be a lot coming out in my book. So I'll just go forward. I worked for my uncle. They're all dentists and doctors, and so that wasn't too interesting. Then I went to Salzburg, the beautiful city, and I worked in the hospital there because that gave me a great job right away. And then I found out I could work in a cosmetic salon, and I went to school and got um, a diploma so that I can do, manicure, pedicure, massage, which I hated. That was too hard. But I loved, doing, facials and decorative makeup and everything. And um, it was also an agency for models. And
Mm.
and the owner saw that I was, very, very good at everything I did. And she said, "Oh, I'm going on a vacation. You take over my classes in the evening," where I had all these farm girls coming in that were paying to learn how to be a model and how to walk. And so I did that. I never had the schooling for it, but I just did that, and I got paid for that. And then every time she went on vacation, she went longer and longer, and she said, "Oh, Sybil, you just handle everything." So what was I doing? I was booking models because we were also a booking agency. And of course, guess what? When people called, "Oh, yes, of course. Saturday, you got it. Miss Sybille Danninger will be there, and she'll be there for the fashion show." I was booking myself like crazy.
That's
And
smart.
that was my deal. I said, I will do this until I get a job to go out and make a little money extra on the side, which turned out to be a lot better than what she was paying me. But that was okay. It was a give and take. And so that happened, and that actually took me to Tokyo as a model, and Italy, and not France. I was always a little too chubby for France. They like, very skinny girls. And that was, until one day a photographer calls in that salon and asks for me. And he says, I have a director here that was looking through your pictures and he's doing a movie in Germany and he would like you for the role. Could you meet with him? And that was Come My Dear Little Bird, which was that's a German saga where I played kind of like a Lady Godiva, totally nude, sitting on the real Rhine River at the top of a cliff, naked, in November.
Oh,
I played that role. And, this is a German fable, so it had a lot of sense of humor. She just sat there and sang, and she had these long blonde tresses of beautiful hair covering a little bit of her body, and the rest was nude. And sitting there, and all the ships on the Rhine River would crash because they'd all look up at her beauty and her voice singing. That's a German fable, They all crashed on the Rhine River by watching this naked girl sing on the cliff. So I did that, and then comes the next offer, and that was everybody knows that movie. That was Siegfried, the
yep.
Nibelungen, and I played Kriemhild, and so that just one led to another. Then I moved to Germany, and when I was in Germany, because I spoke English, I got an agent there, and I said I want to be in the American movies because, like today, when somebody shoots in Berlin, then there's always German actors they bring in. So I started, and my very first American movie there was Bluebeard with Richard Burton. So I was so happy. I remember because, in Austria and Germany, you do movies, you hang a mirror on the tree, and that's how you do your makeup
Yeah.
for movies. There was no studios at that time. It was all more or less independent and on that level. And here I come to Budapest, which is not far from Austria, right next door, in beautiful Budapest, and I walk in. It's the first time I ever saw a makeup room, makeup and hair. It was a huge room, and I was greeted friendly, and I was asked if I want coffee. And I remember what was playing on the radio. It was Neil Diamond's, oh God, what's the name of it now? Coming to America, is it? Did he sing was it Coming to America?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he sang Coming to America. And I sat down in that chair and I said, ah, this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
This is where I want to go. I want to go to Hollywood. And then I did, the Three and Four Musketeers and movies that were shot over there, American movies, and Prince and the Pauper, some beautiful movies. And then one day they came and they said, oh, we have a Francis Sturbridge. You can go to Switzerland, Germany, Austria, all the German-speaking territories and do this very prestigious author's play. But I said, oh God, every day in a different place, and they don't pay much. They didn't pay much for being on the stage. And that could take years. I said, no, thank you. And nobody could believe it that I turned it down. Everybody would have died for that. But I said, nope, I want to go to Hollywood.
Mm.
So Hollywood, here I come. So that was my plan. And here I am. And the very second, actually, most people think it was the first, but it was the second movie I did was Battle Beyond the Stars with, for Roger Corman.
Roger Corman, right?
First
Yeah.
one I did, less people knew about, but it was called Cat in the Cage, and it was done by an Iranian writer, director, producer. And I think I killed everybody, but the director and the producer in the movie. It was a thriller, and we wanted to go, but that was right after the Shah
Yeah.
fell.
Yeah.
We wanted to go to Tehran for a big premiere of that, and I was looking forward to it. But then, of course, we didn't go, and we ended up going to Cairo. But Cairo loved the movie, and it got known a little bit. But Battle Beyond the Stars was the second movie I did. And that, is history. I mean, I have an action figure now
Yeah,
from Beyond the Stars. I don't know if you know that.
I do.
Saint X-Men, beautifully done, beautiful. They really captured my features perfect. Yeah. So here I am.
Since you
And I
just,
still am. I am,
yes,
I said. Oh, that's New England, right? I am, I said. Yeah.
right. Since you just mentioned him and he passed recently, what was your first impressions of meeting Roger Corman? What are your memories of him?
Oh, I loved him and he
Mm.
loved me. I mean, it was like a match made in heaven. And we got along very well. I kind of stepped down again from my level that I had in Europe with the big, um, makeup room because we shot at his studio, which is on the beach. Well, not directly on the beach, but it's in Santa Monica. And he bought it, and there was mold all over the walls, and mice running around and bugs everywhere because it was damp. It wasn't, renovated, but it was a makeup room, with a mirror. And but it was funny. But we got a movie made. And no, he loved me. He said, "You're perfect for St. Exmond." And I mean, he could be very tough especially with um, day players, because I watched a scene once. It was a group scene, and a day player was so nervous. He flipped his scene a couple of times, flopped it a couple of times, and so Roger said, "Do it again, do it again." And then by the third time, he said, "Get him out of here."
Oh no.
I cut it. He said, "Yeah, cut it." So that's how he was. He didn't screw around. He was on the clock.
Right.
And that's how he made his movie. Battle Beyond the Stars was his biggest budget ever on any movie he made.
Yeah, he was known for the quick turnaround.
Yeah.
So when you first moved to the United States, would you consider it a culture shock for you looking back?
No, absolutely not. Because, I cherish my culture,
Hmm.
but there was so much, strictness. And I was raised Catholic and, went to church every Sunday, and there's just things you do and you don't do, and you can't say this and you have to do that. I enjoyed the lightness of the lifestyle. And I was in New York first. I stopped over in New York, and I was maybe there. That was when Studio 54 was going hot. And of course, I had to party it up there. And everybody said, "Yeah, party it up before you go to LA because it's so boring out there." But when I got to LA, no, I loved it. And I said, "This is where I have to be. This is Hollywood." And I loved the lifestyle. And the only thing I found funny, and you'll find that funny, is, I'd get in an elevator with people, and then I'd say hello because, in Europe you say hello to everybody. And so I'd say hello to everybody. And then when they get out of the elevator, I say goodbye and have a nice day. And then when most people, just to get me off their backs, say, "See you later." And the doors were closed, and I thought, am I am I supposed to give him my phone number? Because I took everything literal. See you later. In Europe, if you say to someone, "I'll see you later," that means, okay, let's write down our number and we'll have dinner, and they mean it and you follow up. But here I had to get used to that lightness, like, "I'll see you later" doesn't really mean anything, but it's nice. I got over that fast. And I started saying it.
So, before we get too far, Sybil, a question I like to ask everyone about their childhood is what scared you when you were young?
Well, I have to tell you, I really was never afraid of anything. I was always with the boys. I was climbing trees. I wasn't afraid of heights. I wasn't afraid of crowds. I danced in front of, everybody and loved it. But I do remember when I was very little, and I must have been because I must have been 5 years old because then we left there. And I remember one thing. I don't know if you know who Krampus is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, around, I guess it's around Halloween time here. Krampus goes with Saint Nicholas, and Saint Nicholas goes and says, "Oh, you were good," and the parents say yes, and then the parents say, "But she doesn't like to eat her cream of wheat," and so then the Krampus, which is like the devil who wears chains, will rattle the chains, and it's like, you better eat your cream of wheat from now on, or I'll come and get you. So I was really, I always ran away. I ran across the street and ran down the street to my grandpa's. So I was always doing what I wanted to do. And if somebody would have stolen me or killed me, or I could have gotten run over, they never knew because I was such a free spirit and wanted to do everything. So I remembered and took that serious. And one time my mother said, "Oh, you want to go up to Auntie so and so?" Everybody was an auntie who was a friend of, the family's Auntie so and so, before St. Nicholas comes. And I said, "Yeah." And then it was like two houses from us. And I pulled away and ran right up to that house, and it was already dark. And I remember walking, this old house, like all those houses there are, with huge doors and a big, metal, um, you know, handle. Opened the door, and it was so heavy, I barely got it open and rushed in. And when I got in, it slammed shut, and I realized it's totally dark in there. Totally. I didn't know anymore where the stairs were because she lived on the, first floor. I couldn't see the stairs. I couldn't reach the lights. I stood there in the dark, and I remember being scared. Oh, now Krampus is coming to get me. All I did was reach for the where I got in, the handle, and got out and ran back home. So I remember that so well. And that's the only time I can ever remember. No, nothing scared me. But also, I never really went to movies. Um, I only, when I was older, I loved Elvis Presley. I went to see every Elvis Presley movie. But I didn't go to movies. And even then later, when I lived in Germany, I loved action movies. I loved, romantic movies, but I never watched horror movies.
Hmm.
Really into them. And they just picked me. But I haven't, most people think I've done more than I have,
Yeah.
because now the one I'm going to do now with Fred, they're even announcing it as the, known for this genre is going to be starring in, and it's not really true. I haven't done that many. And the reason is because I got a lot of offers, but I always turned down roles because they would say, "Oh, this is a great role for you." And I said, "You don't understand. If you want to make a movie with me, let me be the killer, okay? Because those I play are strong women, and I believe in that. You got enough movies where it's always the women that are, the victims." He said, "Yeah, but this would be different." I said, "Yeah, different for somebody else, not for me." So that's why I probably didn't. And that's why I really was very much in love. And my favorite one is, of course, the Howling II.
That was the first movie of yours that I ever saw when I was young. Um, just how did that movie come together, and what memories do you have of Christopher Lee?
Well, I've done five, I don't
Yeah.
know if you know, I did five movies with him.
Yeah. So you guys were familiar by that time.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. I loved Christopher. I loved him. Also his wife, although she was almost never around because we were always in weird, locations, and she was a top model in Paris, and she wouldn't get dirty, she'd rather stay at home. Um, but let me back up with a fun little story because we were in Africa. It was Zimbabwe now. It was Rhodesia at that time. And it has about four titles, but the main title is Albino. And when I get there to the hotel, there she is, Gita. She's sitting there with Christopher. They're having a drink, and I say, "What are you doing here? This is the desert, dirty, filthy, no shops, no glamour, no nothing." She says, "But darling, there are emeralds here." Emeralds. So I looked at Christopher. I said, "Okay, so get ready to use all your salary for this movie to buy her an emerald when you're done with this movie. Okay? You gotta buy an emerald here for her." That was so funny. But we had a lot of fun because Gita and I would sit, we both drink. Christopher hardly ever drank, hard drinks, but we drink our whiskey. We played cards. He doesn't gamble. We smoked cigarettes. He didn't smoke. So he just sat there. We'd play, we'd drink, we'd smoke, and he would just sit there and tell his stories. You know what a great storyteller he was. And Gita, and I said, "Oh God, I think I heard that 5 times already." And she just rolled her eyes and said, "Me 5,000 times." So he just loved to sit and tell his stories. So that's okay. So that's what we did in Africa. It was a great little movie, by the way, anyhow. And but Christopher and I have to go back to the Howling II because when we did the Howling II, that was actually, yeah, that was our last movie together, our last movie. And Philippe Mora, the director, and the writer, Gary Brandner, who was, the writer of the books of the Hollings, we already got together because I said to him, I said, let's do another one after this. And we brought in Brandner so that we're protected because, they're his books. So he started writing them, but before we finished, he died, Brandner. And I really wanted to do another one. But when I met Christopher on the movie, I was so happy to see him, like always. I mean, we were always happy, to work together. And we had a lot of fun because that was still when, Czechoslovakia, it was Czechoslovakia, the Czech Republic was, it was behind the curtain. So it was communist. And when we were there, and because of Christopher's background in World War II, as a Nazi hunter, they had a spy watching him actually, but
Really?
they were watching him and me because during the day we were working or we were in costume or whatever. But we had dinner together every night where we shot in that beautiful castle, which was close to Austria. And we just laughed our heads off because every night when we came in to have dinner, in the very corner sat this little guy with very thick glasses, like triple thick glasses. And I called it a dead squirrel on his head, hairpiece that was hanging into his face, everything to cover up his face. And he was a spy. He was spying on us. But when we got in, we just laughed our heads off, and he was just very, very serious and trying to figure out why we were laughing so much. Probably is because he said, "Okay, there he is again. He's in the corner." So we had a lot of fun doing it, and also I don't know if everybody knows. I know Philippe has told this story before. He when we were there, we got the boxes for the werewolves, but they weren't werewolf costumes. They were ape costumes, monkey costumes. And Philippe said to Hollywood, hello, you guys have sent the wrong shipment. Okay, we're not doing, an ape movie here. We're doing a werewolf movie. I need werewolf costumes. And they said, you have to make do with it. You're not going to get another shipment, and basically hung up on him. But the people that he had working for him were wonderful, and they reworked him for everybody. But of course, how do you do that for me, right? That was not a part of it because I'm the first blonde one, and he didn't want me looking like a blonde ape. So he said, Sybil, we're going to have to glue hair on you. And I said, whatever we got to do, that's fine. And they did. And it was basically like, imagine, you've seen strings of hair, or imagine eyelashes, only longer. That's what they did. And I only had the turning one time, one scene, luckily, because it took 8 hours. I had to
Wow.
stand for 8 hours, and they started from the feet up, and it was one little lash after the other because they basically had to cover my body so that I'm not nude, but it still gave that nude impression because it was blonde, but it was a lot of work. And I think after my scene and after um, Christopher saw that and saw me in that outfit and knew that it took so long, he said, Sybil, I can see you have the same attitude, and that's very good. And that has and will always um, give you a wonderful, um, just where you're coming from. You have to do everything for your fans, and you have to remember that, no matter how difficult something is, or even if you think you look like an idiot, you can't do that because your fans are not going to think you look like an idiot. Okay, and you stood there for 8 hours, and maybe you said, yeah, it's not perfect, but you did it for your fans, and they're going to love it no matter what. And you have to have that attitude, because if you're not having fun with your character, then don't do it. He said, I've never taken something for the money. And with me, the same. I've never taken a role for the money. If I've, on contrary, if I've liked something, I'll do it for less if I really like it. And I see the art in it, I like the director. So that was something that he said to me that I think I always felt anyhow, because whenever, even sitting up there nude with that long hair, it was November. I had such a terrible cold. I left with pneumonia, and there was no flight at that time. They put me on a train. I was sicker than I don't want to say dog. I don't want to, but I was so sick. I had fever. I was sick. And it was about an 8 hour drive by train back to Austria, where I was still living when I did that. And I said, I actually arrived in Austria and said, if that's filmmaking, it's not for me. That's not for me. It was freezing cold. It was a little bit embarrassing. It was a little bit ridiculous. But then I went on to do Siegfried, and I loved that character very much. And even though it was a sexy version of it, but in those days we didn't have a problem with, being topless or something, or nude, because in Europe, and still till today, nudity is something beautiful. You know, you go to a swimming pool in the middle of Munich in Germany, and women are laying topless sunbathing, and there's families walking around and children, and nobody thinks of anything bad.
Right.
It's just a part of a body. They don't go totally nude for that. They have, Sylt up north on the island where everybody goes nude. But actually, um, horror, or even something, I think I can say horror, because there was a time when I also was buying and selling movies, because I liked doing that for some friends that I knew. I would buy and sell it to the German territories. And I found that it was easier to sell a sexy movie than it was a horror movie, because the the violent violin rules were very strict in Germany. So that wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
But in any case, no matter what I did, I always felt comfortable, whether it was nudity or, putting on this costume of hair that I thought was maybe not perfect, but I carried it with dignity. And it's always, and it's even to the point now where I'm talking to Fred about this new movie, and I always say, the first thing when I get a script is, do my fans want to see me in this? Are my fans going to want this? And I know I should break out and do other things, but I tell you, I don't know what movie it was, and I love Uma Thurman, and I mean, hey, Kill Bill, okay? And the other one she did with Tarantino. I mean, she is so wonderful, but I don't want to say, but someone hired her and said, I think you should play a mother. And this is years ago. This is like after Kill Bill, okay? It's like, oh, she made a lot of money for that movie. I think she should play, it's time she played a mother. Well, that movie sank, okay? So what are you thinking? Okay? Thank
Right.
you, Tarantino. Okay. Oh God, I'm telling you. So, yeah, you have to do what for your fans. Basically, it's all for the fans because they make you the success you are. That's long before, they can put it in the movies, thousands of theaters. If they don't want to see you or see you that way, only the fans make you. And so you have to be true to them, loyal to them. And that's the first thing I say. Would they want to see me? I did the movie with Patrick Swayze called Jump. Wonderful screenplay based on the story of the photographer. Oh God, what's his name now? New York photographer. Okay, well, I can't think of it right now. But he was known for he photographed Marilyn Monroe jumping in the air. That was a famous photograph from him. And they wanted me to play one of the lead roles, which was the wife of the main character. And I said, no, I'd rather play the girlfriend of of the of the main character because my fans would rather see me as that because I was kind of on the bad side, but also uh, turned out to be a good character. So, it's to me, it's all about what would my fans want to see, and I took the smaller role, which meant less money,
Right.
less shooting time, right? But it's not about the money. It's about what your fans want to see you as.
Well, as a fan, I can say that you've always delivered. When I watch a movie of yours, you know what you're going to get, and you're always satisfied.
Yeah.
I have to ask, since you brought it up earlier, that Christopher Lee loved to tell stories. Did he ever tell you any of his Nazi hunting stories?
No, actually, not with me, no. But have you talked to Philippe Mora, the director?
I have not. I would love to.
You should talk to Philippe. Those two sat and many times, and not just in our movie, but they've sat, well, before and after the movie, they sat in restaurants and he told Philippe the whole entire story. And it's very interesting, very interesting. Yeah.
Okay,
But
awesome.
I know Fred, if you would like to talk to Fred about the movie that we're going to do, I'd be happy to have my manager send you his phone number, his direct phone number, so you could set something up when and if you're ready to
Yes, yes, that would
hear
be great.
about it from his point of view. Hmm.
Awesome.
Well, you know Fred, right? You
Yeah,
know.
of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, big fan.
Hmm.
So near the end here, Sybil, I like to ask everyone, have you ever had an experience that you would consider supernatural, paranormal, or an event you can't explain?
Hmm. No, not really. No, I have. that's something I don't really have to think about because not that I was aware of. No, no.
Do you
I don't know.
consider?
Does that make me weird or
No, no.
wrong?
I mean, it might be a good thing that you've never had anything like that happen.
No.
Just to wrap up here, what can you tell us about the project with Fred? Is there anything that you could reveal?
Well, I know that it was called Jack-O-Lantern.
Hmm.
That was the original movie done 30 years ago. And I'm going to be playing the role that John Carradine played in it. Well, not the role, but let's say the character, okay? Because it's going to be a little bit different, but it is going to have, elements that elements of Jacko. Um, but I'm going to be kind of like that character in it. And I love it because Fred, I've never seen him more excited about a project. I mean, he is just, I haven't read the script yet. We just talked a little bit, but I've done 3 movies with him. So I have already signed on not having a script, but that's okay. And it looks like we're going to be shooting around, maybe the first day would be the 5th of December. But he's working on the script and he's working on everything. And my role is going to be a surprise. We're going to shoot in Florida because that's where he lives there now, and so that's a little easier for you to get there.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and so I just know we just talked in general, and he said I know you're going to love it, and it's going to be very special. And um, he just has so much energy. He was very ill, and he's recovering from it. And I'm very happy that he came to me because he said, I really wanted you for this, and I'm so excited about what you're going to be doing. And I said, well, if you are, then I am too, because I love working with him. He's so easy to work with and fun to work with. And this means a lot to him. This is
Mm.
a big comeback for him again. He's done a lot of Christmas movies, and so I said, okay, so this is your nightmare you had from all these Christmas movies. You got to go the other extreme now, right? He said, you're damn right. He's just a sweetheart. Yeah. I told him I'm going to be talking to you. And he said, oh, wonderful. And I said, can I give Justin your telephone number if he has time to talk? And he said, yes, feel free to give him my direct phone number. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for offering that. Uh,
Mhm.
Sorry, Sybil, just one more thing. Since you've shot in all these beautiful locations in Europe, do you have a favorite location that you've shot on, like just off the top of your head?
You mean location wise?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and I guess probably because that, shows the beautiful culture, that castle. I told you the interior of the castle, that's all a castle in the Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia at that time. I loved it there. Okay. And then I did, well, Siegfried, we shot in Austria. And Austria, the part of Austria is around where I used to have my home in Kitzbühel, which is kind of like the Aspen of Austria. And I had a home there, which I sold now because if I go skiing, I want to go here. So, but it's beautiful because it's in the mountains and it has beautiful old castles. And we shot Siegfried there, the long, swift sword of
Hmm.
Siegfried. That was the title of it. And again, because we shot in, it's beautiful shooting in the actual, um, sets of that time because it just puts you into the mood more, when you're in costume and you're walking out of a beautiful castle rather than, green screen or something.
Right.
So I guess it's Austria and the Czech Republic. Yeah.
Good choices.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, Sybil, thank you so much for giving me some of your time. Like I said, I'm a big fan. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it too. And I'm a big fan and you do. And yes, um, please be on the watch out. Or when I'm ready, then I will let you know um, my vampire movie. That's something that is really, that's my big, I have a few projects I'm working on, but that's something that I've worked on very hard, and I'm I'm pushing it and I have interest, but it's because it is a big movie and I want the director I want. It's when you know what you want, it's a little more difficult.
Right. I'm definitely looking
And
forward to that.
yeah, I'll let you know when that happens. And maybe we'll talk again after Jacko. It's Jacko 2. So Jacko 2. Yeah.
Hey, if you're willing, I am certainly willing. I have a lot more questions for you. I could keep you here for all day.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, that's good. So I have to keep working so that we have something new to talk and we can go on to other things as well.
Right. So thank you, Sybil.
You too for your time. I appreciate it.
Bye bye.
You and I look forward to doing it again.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
And my love to all my loyal fans out there that you help know what's going on. I appreciate you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sybil. You have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.